tell me your name, if you want to tell me your last name or not, or where you're located and the name of your business and or books.
Well, my name is Bert Terhart, so the last name is Terhart. It sounds, if I were to spell it, it would sound impossible. Like everyone asks, how do you say it? But no, it's very simple. Bert Terhart. I live on a small island west of Vancouver in British Columbia,
Mm.
Canada. So I'm very fortunate to live on a little piece of paradise. It's about the size of Manhattan Island, but there's 4,000 people that live here. So I grew up in a very small town. So this suits me just fine. So the name of my primary business is LeadBrain.ai, which is an offshoot of two other software companies that I've built up and then sold. And I'm also the CTO of one of Canada's largest medical clinics. So I've been most of my adult life I've been entirely focused on in IT and in the healthcare space.
Oh
So I've
wow.
been fortunate enough to be, well, maybe I've been fortunate, not smart enough, but fortunate enough to be leveraged into a niche, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
And the books I've written are all a little bit, they're sort of adventure type explorer books. So I've written a book called Sir Salty Goes to Sea, a child's book. I've written a book called 90 Feet of Waterfront, which is a book about my 50,000 or so miles of sailing. I've written a book called Canada Coast to Coast by canoe, because I paddled across a continent by myself. And I've written a book about sailing solo nonstop around the world called 265 and Counting.
What? Okay, well,
So
it, I'm like, I think I was lost for words for a moment, and in my mind, I'm like, "What don't you do, Bert? What don't you do?"
I don't sing. I can't sing to save my life. So
I like that totally. So I guess, as I mentioned when we were off screen, because you have so much going on and so many things, you tell me where we're gonna go with this, and I'm gonna follow.
well, I think one of the things I've been very well, I've made a choice in my life to say no to the things that I'm passionate about. And
Mm,
that's led me to live this extraordinary life. It's transformed my life in ways that I never could have possibly imagined. When you first start out as an entrepreneur or on some wild crazy adventure,
yes.
so and part and parcel of that is trying over the course of my career, trying to inspire young entrepreneurs or people of all ages to live their dreams, whatever that might be. So I'm I'm adamant about trying to encourage people to to step outside the box that they're living in. And we all live in boxes. That's just the way the world
Yes.
is. We just have to live in, we have to live, love, and thrive in boundaries. But there's nothing wrong with having a look outside those boundaries and seeing how your life might change, as long as you're aiming up, of course, how your life might change for the better. And that's certainly true in business. It's certainly true when you're trying to do something a little bit a little bit outside the ordinary,
Yeah.
like walk across a country. And it's certainly true, when it comes to things that we're faced with every day, like relationships. It's important to always be aiming up, and it's important to sometimes step into hard things, because life is not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
There isn't a giant button on my desk that I can push when things get hard.
Mhm.
If you want to, if you have a vision, of course, and
Yes.
you want that, if you want to realize that vision, if you're actually aiming up, if you're actually trying to do something to better yourself or your community or your relationship or anything, then
Yes.
it's by definition it's going to be harder than aiming down. Like it's
Yes.
easy literally it's easy to roll down a hill. It's
Yes.
much harder to turn around and walk back up. So um, the thing that keeps me getting up every day is knowing that every now and then I can put a smile on someone's face, or I can inspire someone to do something that they may have thought was too hard or too far or impossible or beyond them. And
Yeah.
I'm living proof that isn't the case at all, because you don't have to be smart, good looking, tall, short, or anything like that. Good
Yes.
and
Yes.
talent does not necessarily mean you're going to get anywhere in life. All you have to do is keep saying yes. If you're willing to say yes, then chances are you're going to get places where you can't possibly imagine when you first start out.
And I love that. I love that. You're so passionate about what you're saying and how you're speaking about it. And it I believe, and I'm going to ask you to correct me, but you said earlier um, that you spent some time in your life saying no to the things that you were passionate about. Am I
Mm.
correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And every single time it's been to my detriment,
Yeah.
because how
Okay.
you simply you in order for you to succeed, if you have a vision, because
Yeah.
we're and it's I'm glad that we're talking about visions, because
Yes.
they're different than goals, and they're different than necessarily ambitions. A vision means that you have a very complete um, perspective and view of where it
Mhm.
is you want to be. So the colors are perfect, the imagery is perfect, the sounds are perfect. It's more than just some sort of fleeting idea. So in order for you to realize a vision, you have to be emotionally invested, you have to be physically invested, you have to be intellectually invested, and you have to be spiritually invested in those. And those are the four pillars of success. I haven't said anything about finances, because
Yes.
people
Yes.
can, people can turn, basically nothing into extraordinary multi-million or multi-billion dollar businesses. Like, every business starts with an idea, and if you're passionate about that idea and you're fully invested in it, then that idea can come to fruition. So you don't need to be, finances of course help, and you'll need it at some point, but you need to be emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, and physically invested in what it is in that vision. And if you are, then the chances of you succeeding are through the roof. And the times that I've turned down my passions is when I've not been fully invested on those four pillars, and it's been to
Gotcha.
my detriment.
Yes. Yes. And so when you explain this to an entrepreneur or
Hmm.
someone that says, I have an idea,
Hmm.
and that idea is often, just random, sometimes created by others, right? Because
Yeah.
now social media is so in your face right now, this idea. I love the way that you explained the difference between a vision and an
Hmm.
idea.
Hmm.
Someone says, hey, Bert, I have this idea. Where would you go to develop them to understand that the idea and the vision is different, to guiding them to getting their vision to be more upfront and more present rather than the idea?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, in that you simply have to ask them questions
Yeah.
that literally start filling in the blanks. So the death knell of any idea is that everybody, Bert, I have an idea.
Yes.
Everybody's going to want this.
Yes.
And the first thing that I say is, I don't want it.
Yes.
So that immediately disabuses them of the notion that everybody wants it, because I don't, which
Yeah.
forces them to start polarizing their audience, to say,
Yeah.
okay, some people are going to want it and some people don't. And the most important thing that you can do with an idea, or one of the most important things, is to understand who doesn't want it, who's not going to be invested in this idea, because that allows you to spend time, energy, and resources with the people that do.
Mhm,
It doesn't
mhm.
make any sense to spend time, energy, and resources on people or audiences who don't want the thing that you so desperately want them to have.
Yes. Yes.
So you're going to be much farther ahead, and you see this with people who are really good at marketing, people who are really good um, developing ideas and visions. They're very quick to polarize their audience, and in this day and age, that we see a lot of that, but we see a lot of it in a very malevolent or malicious sort of way. You can
Yeah.
do this in a way that's beneficial to, firstly, to those people, because you're not wasting their time, and then you're not wasting yours. So that's the first thing. You have to understand that this isn't for everybody, which then forces you to think about who it is that you're actually speaking to.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, if you can try to, then, and the better idea of the person, of your ideal audience, the more fuller your vision becomes. You understand the language they use. You understand um, maybe what demographic you understand, or maybe what age group. Because I mean, if it's an idea or a product or a business, then clearly, if I'm selling Ferraris, that isn't for everybody, right? So if I'm, and it's, if I'm selling hats with New Zealand on them, that isn't for everybody. So it's just this idea of an ideal customer. People give that, I don't think they give that enough attention, because that helps you fill out your vision. Again, it helps you fill in the blanks. It helps you color it. It helps you understand the language that those people are using. It also helps you understand where those people are, because they're not everywhere, right? They're not everywhere in the world. They tend to be, you know, people tend to be people tend to congregate in cliques. So, like, I'm a sailor, for example. So
Yes.
sailors tend to be, one, very opinionated, sadly. So we're not talking about sailing. And the other thing is that they tend to be, near the water, because that's where
Yes.
sailboats are, and they tend to be, grouped. And people that the motorboaters, people that don't necessarily like sailing, it's different. So this understanding your vision, you can get at that. There's a bit of a back door through it, and it's very valuable if you're an entrepreneur to understand the back door has to do with your ideal customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and I know it was just a question just based off the top of my head, because I believe that as I continue to keep speaking with so many entrepreneurs, business owners, corporate individuals, C-suite, they
Mhm,
often tell me that a vision, like you said, has some spiritualness behind it.
mhm.
I also believe that the vision will take you further than the
Yes.
idea,
Yeah.
because you have
Yeah.
so much passion and you're invested, as you mentioned, mentally, emotionally, intellectually.
Mhm,
And and so I love the fact that you have defined it in a way for someone to say, do I have a vision? Do I
mhm,
have an idea? And with that being said, with all that you've done and all that we're talking about, I know that things, as you developed into who you are and where you are today, I would love to know about your vision.
Okay, so that's a very big question, because and
Mhm.
it's important to understand, I think, firstly, that your vision doesn't have to be singular. So all these disparate things that I've talked about, paddling and sailing and entrepreneurship and healthcare focus, are all tied together by a common thread, and that common thread happens to be part and parcel of my vision.
Okay.
So my vision, certainly, uh, right off the top of the bat, it has to be that um, I want to wake up every morning and know that I'm making a difference, in, firstly, not just in the people that are close to me, like my family, and my partner. I hate to call her partner, because this is a terrible word. It doesn't begin to sort of it doesn't begin to say anything about how I feel about her. But anyway, so people will have to excuse me for that. So I want to make sure that I'm making a difference in these people's lives. So professionally, the clinic that I've done all this work for, we see 1,000 patients a day. Like, that's a
Mhm.
lot of patients, and there's 20 doctors and 20 staff, that help the doctors. So my vision is to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm helping as many people as humanly possible.
Yes.
I'm trying to literally put a smile on as many people's faces as I possibly can. I'm trying to
Absolutely.
inspire people all
Yeah.
the time, whether it's excuse me, whether it's with Lead Brain and small business, whether it's in the clinic, whether it's a book, or whether it's obviously being on a podcast with you, Javanka. I think that's like it's a big part of how I'm trying to move through life, and how
Yes.
I'm trying to, I mean, I would describe my vision as how I'm trying to move through my life, day to day, literally almost moment to moment, because we can only live in a moment. All I have is a moment. I have a
Yes.
moment with you. I want to be fully invested with you, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you as much value as possible. And I'm not just saying that because we're here, but that's the vision. That's my vision. That's how I want to move through life. And I can do that in many of these disparate contexts, but they're all bound by this one common thread. So I hope that isn't, I'm giving you the 60,000, not the 30,000 foot view, the 60,000 foot view of my vision. So hopefully
No.
that's good.
And it's perfect because as I was listening, it's all geared towards making sure you do what your heart says is kind and loving for
Hmm.
everyone. And
Hmm.
that's on the entrepreneur side. That's on the medical side. That is on sailing and paddling. It's I feel like you're leading in love, right? And wanting to share what you have with so many other people. And you can do it in so many different ways. I would
Mhm.
have never thought to come on here and hear about you canoeing, paddling, 265. I mean, what have you not done? But personally, I want to say, Bert, like that's very inspiring to me. And
Yeah, it's
it's
sorry,
something
sorry,
that you
please.
don't often get. Yeah.
Well, I think that when I said that, I've never said no. I try not to say no to things that I'm passionate about. If you're passionate about it, then clearly you love to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly you love to do it. And if you love to do it, then you can be fully invested in it. So one of the things that I'm because I'm fully invested in these things,
Absolutely.
I'm I work 100% at them. One of the things I've noticed about really successful entrepreneurs is that they work really hard,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
work really hard for a long period of time.
Yes.
And one of the things that allows them to work really hard for a very long period of time is they don't think it's work like someone else might think of it. They love to do it. They're absolutely passionate about it, and they don't view it as something, oh, I have to get up and, I got to do this today. So
Yeah.
Steve Jobs wrote that, or in his autobiography, he said that you got to be able to look in the mirror and decide that you love what you do, otherwise you're doing the wrong thing. So
Yeah.
that's a very simplistic way of saying it, and it doesn't work for a lot of people, because we all have our moments where, we're not at our best. We'll look in the mirror and go, who is that guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
What the heck is he doing in my mirror? Like, how did he get in the bathroom?
Yeah.
I don't even recognize that guy. So we all have those moments. But um, it's interesting that you talked about, being passionate and loving the things you do, and they are totally and completely related.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and you can't have one without the other. You literally have to lead with that foot, and you can do it in a corporate sense by, if you're an entrepreneur, by ensuring that the culture that you create inside the business that you're trying to run is the best possible environment to achieve that particular result that you can create. And it's on you, because you're the person in charge. My dad would say, if things are going south, you shouldn't fire the janitor.
Yes.
It ain't on him or her. It just,
Yes.
no, it's on you, right? So
Yes.
so you're
Yes.
responsible, and you can create those kinds of environments where people love to come to work, people love what they're doing,
Yeah.
people understand that the contributions they're making, not just for their own sake, but for the business and for the community and for, and for their audience at large, by being embedded in a culture that they're completely and that they're completely invested in as well. And
Yeah.
that's your biggest job in my mind. Your biggest job in the C-suite is to create this culture that
Yeah.
people actually want to come work for you. Because if I want the best people to come work for me, then I better make sure that I have the best environment for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Otherwise they're not coming, right? They're too smart,
Yeah.
to work for you. If you're, if their office is a garbage can in the, in the back of a warehouse, they're not coming.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. And I didn't find that out in regards to the C-suite. I just briefly, I started off in a position just answering the telephones,
Mhm.
and then I made it to the C-suite. I made it to the COO, and I realized, number one, that I really liked answering the phones.
Yeah.
Because when you're at that space and in that place, if you have a different passion or vision for the company,
Mhm.
you now have to marry the COO and all the CEOs, and what if they don't have that vision? So I
Mhm.
found it to be much more challenging to
Yeah.
be in the C-suite because they didn't have the same passion. They didn't
Mhm.
have the same goals. They didn't love people the way that I love them. So, Bert, what I do, I just quit accidentally.
Mhm.
I was just like, okay, because while answering the telephone, everyone, there was a passion to ask questions and
Mhm.
to be curious and to,
Mhm.
and you don't really get that. You're the answer up here.
Mhm. Mhm.
You get to it's crazy how that happens and how things can change. But being an entrepreneur, as you mentioned, or even being in a C-suite and having that passion and that love for what you do, will definitely flow. And
Mhm,
I love that, and I like that. Well, speaking of flowing, you sailing and you canoeing,
mhm.
why wouldn't that be the case, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing what you do when well, firstly, let me commend you for being brave, because you have to be very brave to have worked so hard to, to get someplace that you really, really thought you wanted to be, realize it's maybe not quite right, and then go in a different direction. So my hat's off to you for being brave, because that's not easy, and a lot of people end up being trapped as a result of that, in a place that they wouldn't necessarily imagine that
Yeah,
they would be trapped.
yeah.
So it's and because and in so doing you learn something about yourself, and that in that process of learning it, that's what I mean by things that can be transformational in ways that you may not imagine. And it will, because it's, I guarantee you, I don't know anything beyond that story, but I can I would bet dollars to donuts that the place that you are now is better, because number one, the choice you made was hard in the moment. So anytime you're faced with with a decision,
Hmm.
and there's all kinds of reasons for this to be true, but
Yes. Yeah.
from a practical point of view, anytime you're faced with with a decision and you choose to the harder decision, as long as you're aiming up, of course, the
Yes.
harder decision is always the right decision. So if you get confused about something, but what you should be doing, if you break it down into the
Hmm.
smallest possible thing that you can do or you can control, the one
Yes.
that's harder it is invariably the right direction to go. So there's always this, you can always be, there's a moral compass. Well, I shouldn't
Hmm.
say moral compass, but there's a compass that will guide you, whether it's business or anything else, and you simply have to, break a task down, and then look for this thing that's slightly harder. So the simplest way to describe it, I guess, for people to understand, is if I want to get fit and I'm lying on the couch watching Netflix, chances are I'm not getting fit. But I
Right.
know I have to go to the gym. So what do I do? Like, I can sit up, right? I can literally stop lying on the couch and sitting up. Sitting up is harder than lying down. And
Yes.
then I can say, well, I can get to the door, which is harder than sitting on the couch. And then I can open the door and get in the car, which is harder than turning around and going back on the couch. So I can
Yes.
keep making these slightly harder decisions. And it seems incredibly trite and trivial. But if
Yeah.
you do that, if you keep making this slightly harder decision, you'll end up in the gym every single time, every
Yes.
time. And when you're there, you can go, well, I can sit on the bench, right? Or I could pick up a weight. What's harder? And it's that has gotten me around the world, across a continent. It's made me millions of dollars. It has it's never failed me. And if you look historically, and in any context that you want, from Marcus Aurelius to Alexander the Great to, to the business tycoons that we know and sometimes hate, that they've got there because they're slightly making sometimes the little bit harder decision. So
Absolutely.
I don't know anything more about your story, but I would bet, again, dollars to donuts, that you're in a better place because you make the slightly harder decision at that time. So I could stay here or I
Yeah.
could leave, because I
Yes.
don't know, this is, I'm going to go.
Yeah. And you're right. You're right. I think it's the scariest things that have the
Hmm.
biggest impact on
Hmm.
life. And once you do it, you don't know how you made it through. To be honest,
Yeah.
as I was telling that story, I don't think I tell that story very often, but I'm reading this book called 10X is Better Than 2X. And it
Yeah.
tells you to identify the things that you went all in on. And that just came to me when I was
Yeah.
speaking to you. So, with that being said, for those that are listening, life isn't easy.
No.
There, it's just not going to. I don't even think it's meant to be easy, Bert.
No.
What it's just this thing that you have to take leaps and bounds and steps and small steps and big
Mhm.
steps, and but if it's where you want to go,
Mhm.
then you'll take those steps. And I
Yeah.
love the fact earlier you were talking about being present and in the
Mhm.
moment. You also spoke about now. It's
Mhm.
these are things that you can't wait till later to do. So
Yeah.
it's super important, and I to find vision, right? And to have that understanding. And with that being said, I don't want to take too much of your time. I have a favorite question. A
Okay.
favorite question. What are the greatest joys of what you do?
Oh, I think the greatest joy is simply that I know that I'm making a difference. So even
Yes.
though it might be hard, I know
Mhm.
that I'm making a difference. And I know I'm making a difference in certainly the lives of patients. Like that's a very big deal. Like I started in the healthcare business, and at one time I had 2,500 doctors using software that I had written. So even though it was hard,
Yep.
and the work was hard, and of course managing all those doctors is hard if you ever work with doctors.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
I everyone in the office knew that we were making a difference, not of course in the doctors' lives, because we're making their life easier, but it was differential diagnostic software and patient management software and clinic software. So we were making a difference in the lives of people, like real people,
Yes.
and that's very satisfying.
Absolutely.
And so that, like, think how, and this is again, it sounds so trite, but you can make the difference. You have no idea you have no idea what the difference that you can make in someone's life by simply putting a smile on their face. I remember being completely and utterly uplifted and totally turned around by something that a small child had said, and I found out about it sort of third hand when I was sailing. And I don't know this little guy. I've never met him, but but I know what he did, and I know the place I was when he said that. Basically, I'm talking. So I was sailing around the world, and there was thousands of kids around the world following this trip.
Mhm.
And every now and then, the rule was if you email me, I email you back. So I'm still emailing all these people. Anyway, and I'd hurt myself, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and I literally couldn't move in the boat. I was strapped down because I'd hurt I got thrown around, and this little kid had said something, because they were every day in class or every week they would say, where's Bert, like where's Waldo, and they'd show me on the world map in the middle of nowhere, and I'd written something, and they would read it. So and there was this little kid who said something that inadvertently, and they said that to you when I was I went to the equivalent of West Point, so that said this thing in military college to you, and that completely turned me around, stopped me from feeling sorry for myself. And so and that little kid putting a smile on my face completely turned around pretty much that whole thing, that
Yeah.
whole great big I'm going to sail around the world by myself sort of thing. So when you throw a pebble in the pond, you have no idea where the ripples are going to end up, and you can
Yes.
do that by just walking, by just carrying yourself kindly, as you move through the world.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy, right? Because you're not always at your best, but I know it can make a huge difference. I know it can make a huge difference in people's lives.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.